Hi, my name is Katie Bornicke, and this is my tutoring portfolio. I did my case study and all of my assessments and my tutoring with the little boy that I nanny. His name is Chase, and he's a 5-year-old boy. He's in preschool. He'll be going to kindergarten in the fall. He's a normal developing child. He really loves to read. We read all the time. He has a 2-year-old sister who normal developing. I can have a conversation with her. She's a really lovable little 2-year-old, and Chase really loves Legos. That's his big thing right now. For the assessments, I did a motivation section, and for this, I did the interviews about reading Emergent Reader, and I won't go into great detail about this. There was about 10 questions on this interview, and he answered all of them. They weren't really in-depth. They were just short answer, and for one of the more difficult questions that I thought he would really struggle with was, how does a person become a good reader? And he said they like to read and they read a lot. So basically he was saying that if you read, you'll become a good reader. So practice makes perfect. The next section was reading comprehension, and I used the QRI-5, and I used the story Just Like Mom, and I did like 4 different sections of it. The first section was the pre-questions before I read it, and he answered all of the questions. He only said one thing about every question, but so therefore he only got 3 points. One of the questions was, what does going to work mean to you? And he said, going to school. And then another question was, what does mom going to work mean? And he says that the babysitter comes. So he answered all. I think there's 3 questions. He answered all of them. The second section was, I read the story to him, and at his level he was able to read it back to me, and he really wanted to. So I said, I'll read it first and then you can read it back to me, and he didn't make any mistakes while reading the story. The third section was recalling details. I told him to retell the story to me, and he told 4 details out of 15. So I thought that was pretty good for a 5-year-old. And then section 4 was answering questions about the story, and he answered those questions 4 times explicitly and then 2 times implicitly. Another section that I did for assessments is spelling, and I used a spelling sheet from the QRI-5, and there's 26 words on the list, and I told him that we could just do 10 of them or we could do 26, and he wanted to do all of them. So he's a very motivated little kid, and I told him how to do it. I mean, I'm not going to correct you if you're wrong. I just want you to answer them the best that you can. And out of the first 10 words, he had 4 correct. And a lot of his problems or troubles with the spelling came from vowels and clusters. So one of the words had an S and a T. He would just do the first letter, like the S, and then leave the T off. So I know he knows what those sounds are, but I think to put it on paper, he just forgot. And he's an emergent reader from this assessment that I did. Next, instead of doing a writing sample, since he's starting to write, I decided to do a drawing sample, and from this, I kind of did it really indirectly, and I told him that I was going to take this piece of paper and put it into my schoolwork, and I did it with him and his little sister. I gave him big pieces of paper, and I said, draw something that makes you happy. And he drew a Lego, which I thought initially he was probably going to draw a smiley face, which in the videos that we watched said, oh, if they draw a smiley face, ask them to draw something different, or ask them why they drew that. So then I asked him why he drew a Lego, and he said, because I like to play with them, which he does. And then I went on and I asked a lot of different silly questions, and I asked, draw a pickle. And For all of those questions, I probably asked him to draw 20 things. He ended up drawing them all, and some of them were a little creative. I think I told him to draw a dino, and because they like to go to Dino's Pizza, and he drew a dinosaur, which I thought was really cool because I thought he was going to draw a piece of pizza. So, oops. The next one was phonemic awareness. And for this, I did 7 different worksheets from reading A to Z off that website, and 6 out of the 7 worksheets were about rhyming, and they were all a little different, but overall he did pretty well. He knows how to rhyme. He rhymes all the time on his own, and we read a lot of Dr. Seuss and a lot of rhyming books, and his little sister is in the age of where rhyming is becoming very important, so we try to rhyme around her a lot. And the one worksheet that we worked on with rhyming where he struggled with was identifying rhyme. And I noticed this on a couple other ones where he would get 1 or 2 wrong. I said 3 words to the child, and he had to pick the word that did not rhyme, and he got 6 out of 10 or 12 of those. For example, the words jump, stump, and damp were presented, and he picked jump. And this was kind of towards the end, so he probably was getting tired of the rhyming. And then for another worksheet that we did was counting syllables, and he got all of those right. For the language sample, he had a lot of interrogatives. We were reading books, and he would ask me to read it again, things like that. So otherwise, he used a lot of simple phrases and simple sentences. My favorite session, we did 2 different stories, a Friends in the Stars from reading A to Z. Both of these stories were from reading A to Z. And this was a level F book. And for him, he should probably be at his age at level A or B, but he's so beyond what he should be at because he's been exposed to literacy all of his life. And so he read the story, didn't make any errors, which I thought was really cool for a level F book. And then we did a writing sample, and I used the book How Zebras Got Their Stripes, and I read this to his sister and Chase, and they loved this story. They thought it was the coolest thing ever. And so then I gave them a piece of paper, and I told them to draw a donkey. So they did, and then we kind of decided to make up our own story that was similar but a little different. And then they drew a dentist, and the donkey wanted to be turned into a cow, and so the cow went to and it just went on, and they thought it was the best thing ever. So I thought that was a really good and fun session for us to do. And this is what it ended up looking like. This is his artwork. So for course concepts, I think some areas that he is starting to work on is academic language. I mean, he's 5 years old. He hasn't been in kindergarten or anything like that yet. So he's starting to get exposed to that, and I think he really started to when I did these assessments and worksheets with him. And for fluency, when he was reading, it was like I had a hard time understanding what he was saying just because he was really trying to get the words right, and therefore his comprehension when he reads just isn't, when he reads himself, he doesn't understand it as much as if I would read it to him. Progress over time, he was motivated to begin with, and now he's even more motivated. And spelling, I didn't really try to focus on that because he's in preschool. But, I mean, we did touch on it a little bit, but it's not something that we focused on. Reading comprehension, he started to understand concepts of the stories, like the beginning, middle, end, the characters, the settings, what the story was about. For phonemic awareness, he does need to work on his rhyming just a little bit to be able to discriminate those sounds. And for the drawing sample, he makes more complex stories when he's drawing. It's not just Spider-Man is hiding. He'll expand on that. And he's hiding in the dungeon when Superman comes. and remarks. I really loved how this tutoring was like a real life kind of situation and not just something that we had to read about and then write an essay on. This was something that we could use later. And for struggle, I had a really tough time trying to find the perfect reading level for Chase just because he is so advanced for his age and I really wanted to give him a challenge. And changes, for myself, when I did these assessments and activities with Chase, I think I would have not made them because they were really drilling to him. Like he got sick of them really easily. I would like to have a more real life, some situations where this would be something useful for him and maybe more fun activities. But this is my tutoring portfolio. Thank you.